0106. Now back to Mike and Stu.
So, Stu, that's me. A couple of weekends ago, something came up over in Louisiana, and I went over there and uh, got me a hotel room, and I got up early the next morning, kind of early the next morning, and went to this thing called a boucherie. I guess I'm pronouncing it right. And saw our friend David Hubbell there, and which I knew he was going to be there, and got to meet John Folse, and had a grand old time. The weather was not very nice. It's cold and wet. And
you mean it was winter?
Yeah,
okay.
2 weeks ago it was winter.
Yeah.
But Dave was there, and we got David on the phone, and I might have some questions of David, and so David, are you there?
I'm here.
There he is.
Morning, buddy.
That sounds like David. So that's David.
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Hey, tell us for our listening audience who wondering what the heck is a boucherie? What is a boucherie?
Well, it's a French term that folks around maybe South Alabama might be familiar with for a hog killing. I think if you look throughout the United States, I think a lot of the different cultures have some sort of form of pork butchering when we're more rural and raising pigs. And so the boucherie is just the French name for it when they do it with the South Louisiana region in the fall cold months. And it's done typically between 4 or 5 neighbors or small families, and everybody would have their own pig, and they trade off, every so many weeks during the cold months. And this is all before you have refrigeration. So this is a way for everybody to get some protein from the pig. And obviously, if you were supplying the pig, you might get the choice cuts. But then there was all the things from the pig was used, and nothing went to waste. So you end up with a lot of these delicacies that we're familiar with in the South, hog's head cheese and crackling and such. So I think it's kind of a brief overview, but hopefully that kind of gives everybody an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah. I got to talk to John Folse's brother, and was it Jimmy? Jerry, and I said, well, it's just like having a big family reunion, and all the meat's fresh, instead of store bought. And he said, yeah, it's kind of like that. But Stu, what do you think, man?
I think that the liqueur was Pernod.
Oh yeah, I've heard
that's
that.
That's the one that goes in oysters Rockefeller. That's what I think. My dad grew up in Choctaw County, and they did exactly what David is describing. They had hog killings amongst the family. There were a lot of Donalds up there at the time, and then other neighbors as well. And he did not enjoy them as a kid. First, there was, but he said, I also knew we'd be having to bathe with lye soap after that. So made lye soap from rendering the fat as well. And he said that stuff burns when you wash with it. So it was, they just have a cool name for it in Louisiana, but it was pretty traditional throughout the South, and I would imagine the Midwest as well.
Right. And I think if you look around, especially you two guys being so familiar with the different culinary traditions of nowadays, there's boucheries held throughout Georgia and I'm sure Tennessee and other parts, even though they weren't French. But I think they've taken that name because it probably sounds cooler than
hog killing. Yeah, it's hog killing's what we always call them. We just have it's a hog killing. Come on, we're having a hog killing.
But to your point too, Stu, some people have fond memories because Mike was saying, Jerry, this is a big family get together, and sometimes, a lot of times they often enjoyed it, but then you'd often hear other people who didn't enjoy it a lot because it was a lot of hard work. And of course, the way John Folse does it, everything's kind of planned out and kind of prepped. So you're able to do it in a 4-hour period to demonstrate a lot of this.
Yeah, I would like to get over there for that, but I haven't been able to yet. I'm glad Mike was able to go over there and hang out. I just realized Mike and I are wearing the same shorts, man. It's a little distracting. The same brand and everything, same color.
I got the memo.
Usually, John has had, this is the 6th one that they've done since 2016. Obviously, we had some years without COVID or with COVID that we couldn't have it. And they usually try to do it in one of the Saturdays in February, preferably before Lent starts.
Yeah.
So people can enjoy the pork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you can enjoy it on Saturday, but it's just to probably enjoy all the other stuff that goes with it. He had some sponsors like a distillery out there too.
Well, that's never bad.
Yeah, and then I enjoyed the property. The property was just so much to see, and he described it, with his students, his culinary students. They go out there and they pick he said with his distillery, they're going to do a certain batch of something, a blend, a brew of something, and the students are going to have to go out there and pick the fruit that's going to be used in that distilled spirit. And they're going to learn all that. They're going to learn everything about the industry.
That's fascinating.
I'm assuming most of your listeners kind of know who John Folse is, but he's kind of billed as the Louisiana ambassador, Louisiana's culinary ambassador to the world.
And he really is.
Yeah, and he's been a chef and in the food business, I think, since the early 70s. And I think he came up through the Howard Johnson restaurant chain. And so that was what, who was it, Jacques Pepin?
Yeah,
Jacques Pepin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I worked for a chef in Nashville that had studied under John at Nicholls State.
But he started a number of restaurants. Lafitte's Landing in Donaldsonville. But then people around here probably are familiar with his PBS series that he's done through, I think, since late 80s through 2016 on Louisiana. I think it's called Taste of Louisiana. He's got like 11 cookbooks. And he's got the Culinary Institute at Nicholls State University, which I think is like the only 4-year culinary degree you can get in the United States. So he had those students there, and that White Oak Estate and Gardens, as it's known now, it's he's had that since the late 80s, and it's kind of like his playground. So he's got a mini grist mill, a mini distillery, a smokehouse, a full kitchen because it's a wedding venue, and just another type of entertainment venue where you can have like bridal showers and all kind of other things, plus gardens and Melitong.
And I love that you mentioned grist mill. And for people who don't know what the grist mill was, most communities had one. And we were talking about my dad with the hog killings. They did not raise their crops for sale. They rose their crops for consumption. But they would raise enough corn that they could go to the grist mill, and the grist mill would grind it into cornmeal for them and keep 10% of it as pay for that. And they would do that with every farmer. And then, so they got 10% of everybody's cornmeal. And then they sold that cornmeal to grocery stores in Meridian and Mobile.
Okay.
And you could also trade some of your cornmeal from the guy who grows wheat, some of his flour. There was a lot of barter like that, but there was no money really exchanging hands.
Everybody was well fed.
Yeah, pretty well. Well, they were putting the groundwork in for a generation of diabetes and obesity, but we didn't know at the time, because my dad spoke of having biscuits 3 meals a day. At breakfast, she made a pan of biscuits. At lunch, she made a pan of biscuits, and at dinner, she made a pan of biscuits.
And to your point, the other thing you were saying reminded me. The other thing I forgot to say is I think they just put in a cane grinder to show how to actually make cane syrup from sugar cane.
I had somebody bring me some cane juice the other day. You like cane juice? Yeah. Here you go. Here's some cane juice, and drank it all up. And that brings back memories too. From Fall Festival out in Sims, they would sell the sugar cane, and you'd buy it and just gnaw on it.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
Sugar cane kind of was one of the ingredients for smoking the andouille sausage that's been traditionally done too. So I grow a little bit just for that.
And you throw the cane into the fire so that it with that, or okay.
Yeah, I just kind of cut a couple of canes and put them down by the heating element, and just let it smoke, because it's usually done with like traditionally corn cobs, sugar cane, and pecan wood. At least we're in St. James Parish, where my family came from.
Yeah. I have not asked ever what they do at Hall Sausage, but whatever they do a fine job of it.
I agree.
And all these memories that Mike and I are having of either from our childhood or stories from our childhood about our parents. That's the whole purpose of what John does there, is to preserve all of those traditions.
Oh, absolutely.
And heritage to share it with the future generations. And I think that's fantastic. I've met John at a gumbo cook-off that I competed in over in Orange Beach several years ago, and just had the most pleasant visit with him. And my sous chef was just star-eyed the entire time because we were in a tent while the judging and stuff was going on. So it was me, it was Jim Smith, Marty Duncan, and John Folse. And we're all just sitting there just swapping stories. And my sous chef's just with just the biggest eyes going, I don't believe this is happening. And it was the stuff we can't talk about on air too.
Well, now I want to ask you, David, did you try any of the beaver tail?
No, I didn't. So in addition to the 11 or 10 stations for just cooking the hog, they had some other instructions on some traditional dishes, and it was a beaver tail cooked in bear grease, I think.
Bear fat. No.
And it looked like flounder when you peeled it.
Yeah, when he peeled it back, it looked just like flounder, and I go, wow.
Texturally, I haven't had beaver tail, but it's supposed to be the closest thing to equate it to is tripe. If you've ever had menudo, that's cow stomach lining, and it's fairly nutritious, and it's just one of those things you use when starvation is an issue.
All these things are important to know because of that very fact. We never know when we have a look at what's going on in Europe right now and China. You need to learn how to eat these animals.
Southern boy can survive.
Yeah, Southern boy can survive. That's right.
The reason that raccoons and possums exist is so that I can render fat from something to fry something that tastes better than they do.
Well, they had a raccoon and rooster stew on the menu as well.
Yeah.
That's really good. I cooked that one year.
Yeah.
And
well, David, after I got everything on my plate and got to the table, I couldn't remember what was what.
You didn't have room for raccoon?
I had everything except beaver tail.
Yeah.
I mean, I can post a picture under maybe my cat too already. It's a lot of beautiful brown stews.
Yeah. Brown tastes good.
Yeah, I think that's what one of the chefs in New Orleans says. That's a flavor, color flavors brown.
There you go. Well, David, thank you for your input and coming on and telling us. You got a better description than I do because you are from that area and you've experienced more than we have.
He's the Merleton man.
He's the Merleton man. There needs to be a song and a movie about him.
I appreciate it.
Dustin Hoffman.
Anything I can help y'all with, let me know.
Dustin Hoffman and Tom Hanks. Thank you, David.
Folks in these parts say it's what's between the buns that counts. Of course, they're talking about the soon-to-be famous Butch Burger from Butch Cassidy's Cafe. In addition to burgers, Butch Cassidy's Cafe features daily specials, Rio Grande nachos, and Bags Wyoming buffalo wings. Heck, they even have a low-carb menu for the health-conscious. Now round up your posse and head on down to 60 North Florida Street in the heart of the Flow Shield District. Open Monday through Saturday at 11.